What if I told you that the guy who revolutionized superhero comics is also the guy who hates the very concept of superheroes? Yes, my friends, his name is Alan Moore. And if Shakespeare had written comics, he'd probably ask this madman from Northampton for advice. Too bad Alan Moore would hate you just for thinking that. Alan Moore was born in 1953 in the United Kingdom, or as he himself would call it, that swamp of post-imperial misery where souls go to die. He started out drawing and writing in the 70s, but soon realized that writing was easier than drawing with his own tears. He began in underground fanzines. He did V for Vendetta for Warrior magazine and wrote Marvel Man, which became Miracle Man. And then DC Comics had the brilliant idea to invite him to give a makeover to a swamp monster. Spoiler, he became the monster and changed everything. Alan Moore took Swamp Thing, a B-list horror character, and turned him into Shakespeare with moss. He invented a new concept of identity, a plant soul, ecological consciousness. And in the midst of all that, he wrote one of the most beautiful romances about a monster who has sex with a human through psychedelic mushrooms. Yes, that happened. And you applauded. Then came Watchmen, the story that killed the classic superhero with an ideological chokehold, a comedian who raped, a blue god who lost his humanity, a fascist vigilante who is still idolized by right-wing teenagers to this day. All of this under a constant rain of nihilism and literary references that would make Freud stop analyzing. The industry applauded. The fans went crazy. And DC registered the rights forever and never gave them back. And guess what Alan Moore did? He hated it. Intensely. Meanwhile, Moore created V for Vendetta, where an anarchist dressed as Guy Fawkes fights against a fascist government, Promethea, an esoteric comic about magic, symbols, and the deconstruction of language. Basically, it's Alan Moore explaining the universe, somewhere between a tarot reading and a joint. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where he merges Victorian literary characters with violence, sex, and nihilism. Seriously, if you've only seen the movie, your brain deserves an official apology. Alan Moore hates Hollywood. He hates adaptations. He hates corporations. He hates anyone who doesn't understand the complexity of a symbiotic swamp with a cosmic soul. And guess what? All of his works have been adapted against his will. Watchmen, which he ignored, V for Vendetta, which he despised, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which he cursed, Constantine, which he pretended doesn't exist, and The Show, the only film he liked, because he wrote, acted in, and released it himself, without any studio involvement, obviously. Alan Moore is like the father who says, "My son is beautiful," and then puts the kid up for adoption, just because he became an influencer. Today, my-aging Alan Moore lives reclusively in Northampton, writing gigantic books that no one can read without guided meditation, and 3 dictionaries by their side. He renounced comics, says the medium has already given all it could, and placed a symbolic curse on anyone who tries to adapt his works without permission. Too late, Alan. There's already an HBO series coming out with your DNA. But if there's one thing we learned from Alan Moore, it's this. Art isn't meant to please. It's meant to transform, to disturb, to mess with your head, and leave you thinking for days. So tell me, do you think Alan Moore is a misunderstood genius? Or just a grumpy old man with too much talent and not enough patience? Comment down below. And don't forget to like before Moore turns you into a metaphysical character in an implicit social critique. And remember, the true hero is the one who writes so much that even Batman would get lazy to read it all.